into 6 components using the letters E, S, C, A, P, E for escape. And with my classes being speaking classes, my real philosophy of teaching is that a teacher should not be talking for more than 10% of a speaking class. Students should be speaking 90% of the time. And even with the escape room class, that was how I wanted to do things. So escape rooms are all about teamwork, communication in groups, solving puzzles together, very little individual activity. And my classes are usually like that anyway. So in the actual classroom, they'd be in groups of 4 and 5. In my online classes, they'd be in groups of about the same, mostly in breakout rooms and coming back to the main screen when they'd solved a puzzle. So as a typical lesson, I would start using E for enter, which would be some kind of vocabulary exercise, maybe idioms or fitting the word in a sentence, vocabulary connected to the topic, which could be alibi, which is a mystery theme, or an alien, which obviously is a space theme. And from the very start, each team would be collecting points. My classes are super competitive, although I did try a couple of classes without the points, just because I didn't want to get it too ferocious. But all my students said they preferred competitive classes and they wanted to do it for points and to try to win the class. So the team that got the most points together, working together, they didn't have to do these exercises individually, would get points. So if they got 9 out of 10 questions right, they'd score 9 points, which in the classroom I would be writing on the board. In the Zoom, they could add their score to the end of their name on the screen, or I would just keep a score in my notebook. The second part would then be S, which is usually for solve, or it could be sort, or sometimes a survey. And it might be a word puzzle, some anagrams. They could ask each other a few questions about the topic. So for example, if it's alibi, there might be questions like, who's your favorite detective? Have you ever read Sherlock Holmes? Yes, no questions would be fine. Or it could be sorting words into groups. For example, in a lab mission, it could be science words, or it could be the name of inventions, or it could be chemicals, sorting vocabulary into groups. Then it gets on to the exciting stuff, so a little bit of a build-up with vocabulary. And C is communication activity, usually. So some examples could be, so what am I thinking of? You have to describe an invention without saying the word, for example. Or in the detective game, they actually have to play, if you know the games like Among Us or Werewolf, they'll play a game where one student is the guilty party, the other students are innocent, and one person is a detective. And the detective has to ask everybody questions. For example, where were you yesterday at 5 o'clock? The guilty person has to lie. They cannot say what they were doing. And the innocent people have to tell the truth. And the detective asks a few questions to find out who is the guilty person, the liar. So basic communication activities, and this doesn't score points. This is just to get them speaking English, obviously. The next component, A, would often be answer, which might be a word search or some kind of mystery that they have to solve. And then P could be, for example, a planning activity, like making a dinner party theme, or some kind of activity in which, for example, everybody has to decide if they want to be sent on a mission to space. Would you prefer to stay on Earth, or would you like to volunteer for the mission? What are your reasons? If you want to be on the mission, can you give 3 good reasons why you should be sent? If you want to stay on Earth, give 3 good reasons why you should stay. And I would walk around or visit the breakout rooms to check everybody speaking English, and maybe to give them scores for their originality, creativity, for how they're doing. And then the final element of the lesson would be an escape puzzle, which could be a more traditional escape room activity, like a picture where they have to find a combination to escape, or they have to read a mysterious group of sentences and find the hidden words like we just looked through in the original part. So the basics is that each class is a mission, and they're aiming for points, they're wanting to score, they want their team to win. And each person, like in an escape room, brings different skills. So for example, I had students who maybe didn't really like speaking English, but they were really good at word searches, or some that had really good leadership abilities and they could lead their team to victory. They were like the cheerleaders. I had other students who maybe had specialist vocabulary, like they were engineers. They knew the words that they might be looking for in a puzzle. Some who were really good with numbers that could solve problems quickly. So yeah, even in a breakout room, I did find that I was mostly successful. And the students said that the best part of that class was that with their online learning, most of their classes were very passive this year. They'd be doing on-demand videos, they'd be sitting in their rooms at home, like watching, but not participating. And they said that my Escape the Classroom class was the one time that they felt active and that they felt part of a community and that they could make friends through doing these strange and mysterious puzzles together. So at this point, I'll just have a quick pause, and if anybody wants to jump in with a comment or any questions, go ahead.
Hi, Fiona, I have a question.
Hi.
How often would you do this activity? So
this is actually my whole course. So I've done 15 weeks, and each class of 90 minutes is, or I may have, yeah, I actually did it every week for 15 weeks, 90 minutes, and each class would go through those 6 components of escape. Yeah, that was my whole university class this year. Wasn't anticipating it to be on Zoom, but I made it work somehow. Yeah, you could of course just do like a one-off and see how it goes. You don't have to go the whole way like I did. So you could maybe adapt a few of your activities that you use in the classroom, make them competitive, make them team tasks. For example, one thing that you could do that I found worked really well was a reading comprehension that I kind of changed. So I did a reading comprehension about the Enigma code machines used in World War II. And each student had a separate part of the information. And I gave them a few minutes to read their information. Like, so far, so traditional. They do this kind of thing all the time. Then I suddenly announced that the Gestapo were on the way and they had to dispose of any evidence before they were arrested, or they'd be in trouble for being caught as spies. And so then they all had to rip up their pieces of paper, and I fake swallowed them, and I had to see them on screen disposing of the paper. And then we moved on to something else. And then a few minutes, well, maybe half an hour later, we came back to it and there was a quiz. And they had to use all the information that they could remember in their team, bearing in mind they each had a paragraph each, to answer 6 questions, multiple choice. And the A, B, and C options each had a different number. So for example, if you chose A, Poland, you might get the number 9, B, Germany, the number 6, C, France, the number 3. And they had to choose which number was correct. And at the end, they would have 6 digits, and they would send me their combination in the chat, or if we were in the classroom, they would call me to their group and tell me the digits. And if they were correct, they won, they escaped their cell. If they didn't, they had 2 more choices, or else they would be executed. So high pressure. But
yeah.
I tend to take things too far. I've been told this a lot.
I hope you don't like fake execute them too.
I didn't find a way to do that on Zoom. I could have just eliminated them from the Zoom, but no. But you can adapt things.
Yeah. So you've got a question?
Yes, actually, I
thought you were surrendering.
No, I know. Please don't execute me. I actually had a real constructive thing to ask. So that sounds really wonderful, but how do you structure your assessments to figure out your A's, your B's, your C's, and whatever?
Good point. Yeah, I started to panic about this towards the end. So this was a trial run because I've never taught this structure before, and with it being the pandemic, I also had to go easy on a lot of students who had their own tech problems. They sometimes couldn't get into the Zoom, etc. So the final mission I did do, I recorded their breakout rooms, I listened to them speaking, and I told them that the whole class would be an assessment. So it wasn't based on their points of how they did from week to week. There was no real, collecting points to grade them. So I graded them on a pretty traditional speaking test at the end.
Just one more quick question. How do you find when they're interacting with each other to figure out your puzzles, how do you find their capacity to stay only in English?
In the classroom, excellent, because I'm walking around constantly and I'll remind people English, this is what we're supposed to be doing. In breakout rooms, I would have to jump from room to room, and as I'm sure you all have done as teachers, I'm jumping in unexpectedly, checking. But to be honest, I wasn't so strict this year because I just really wanted these students who were stuck at home to communicate with each other and have a chance to make friends. So if they use Japanese to like say, that would be okay. But they did have to explain to me when they came back to the main screen with the answer in English. Their interactions with me would be 100% English. With each other, sometimes, yeah, they did speak Japanese, of course.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I had a quick question, Fiona.
Yeah.
Because I know that you've compiled everything into a book, but do you have to send them materials to do this?
Yes, so my students each had a copy of the textbook, and obviously I'm doing non-commercial, I'm not going to be promoting
No, but I wonder how they
yeah.
prepare online for it. That was the thing.
Yeah, so I did have a digital flip book for students who didn't have the book in the first couple of weeks, and I had students who were in Malaysia, for example, who could not physically get hold of their books.
Right.
Unfortunately, after a few weeks, they were able to get to Japan, but yeah, they did need to have their copy of the book for the way I structured the lessons. But you could also make your own activities that would work and restructure.
It looks like they need something to like preparation, because there's quite a lot.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And they had to actually cut up pieces of paper from their book. So it was they definitely needed to have materials in front of them to do this. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, it's not, you say it's not commercial, and I won't push you, but can you tell me the title of your book?
It's kind of self-explanatory in the title of this presentation, but yeah, feel free to contact me afterwards if you want to ask any questions. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? So I'll move on a little bit to how I turned my classroom into an escape room. And again, I don't recommend this to anybody who doesn't want to go the whole way into this, because this has been my obsession for quite a few years now. And I did my first escape room about 6 or 7 years ago. And I came across them when I was on an aeroplane reading an in-flight magazine. And I read an article about escape rooms in Budapest. And instantly, I have to get to Budapest. This is amazing. I'd never heard of an escape room before. As soon as I got back to Japan, I went online, like, what's an escape room? Where are escape rooms? And I did find one near me in Fukuoka. I had to go by myself because none of my friends were at all interested in this. So I found myself in Fukuoka with 2 random students doing an escape room, and it was disastrous because it was all in Japanese and I couldn't figure anything out. But the next summer I did go to Budapest, and since then I've done about 50 escape rooms physically and a few more online. And when I was in an escape room, I got this feeling that I was so absorbed in the task, and during the hour that you're inside the escape room, you really are into it. It's such an immersive experience, as I'm sure anyone who's done one will know. And I just had this moment when I thought, wow, I wish my classes were like this. I wish my students could be so completely absorbed in an activity that they forget the world outside and they're just like deeply into the moment. And I realized that there's this psychological word for it called flow, which there's a book written on it, Flow, which I haven't got around to reading yet, but if you're interested, it's a whole psychological concept about the well-being, the benefits of being immersed in an activity. Like if you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, for example, or a crossword puzzle, or something where you're just so into it. And so from then I had this wish to make escape rooms a part of my classroom experience. And so I decided I would turn my actual classroom into an escape room. And the first one I did was called The Curse of Tom Taniguchi. And it used all the props that I had in my classroom, the bookshelves, map of the world, a globe, posters. The whole room was a classroom. I couldn't afford to rent a room and make a real business of this. And there would be clues. The students would be like detectives finding, for example, they'd see stickers on the map of the world, which would read numbers 4, 5, 6, 1 or whatever. And then that would open a lock. And inside the box, if they open the lock, they would see the next clue. So kind of a treasure hunt, if you like. And the goal was to find the treasure, which would unlock the curse. And I made this for adults, but my kids in the children's classes I teach, every week they'd be looking around the classroom like, why are there stickers? Why is there a briefcase hanging from the ceiling? Why can we do this? And they were always going to look in the post box outside, because I would have a wine bottle hidden in the post box outside with a message inside it. And they were so intrigued that I was like, okay, I'll make you an escape room before you graduate. And so then I made one for kids, which obviously couldn't have so much like clues that you had to read. It was much more aimed at non-readers or younger learners. And so, for example, I would have clues hidden inside a little flat book. That there'd be pictures with a piano and a clock and a mirror and a bed, which would lead them to where's Spot. And if they looked behind the flaps, they found numbers, and that would open the box. And again, it was a kind of a treasure hunt where the goal was to find 3 different treasures. One was hidden under the table, another one was in the post box, which they quickly guessed. And so my children were very satisfied, but kind of disappointed that that was a one-off, because it was a huge thing to organize. But again, you don't have to go the whole hog. You could just make little games, little activities inside your lesson and adapt a few things that you normally do and give it a competitive element or a puzzle to find the answers at the end. So, any questions before I go on? I'll take you back to the slideshow shortly to show some pictures of how this came together. Oh, I can hear somebody talking in the background. That's weird. Okay, so I'll share the screen, and hopefully this time I'll be able to show you the pictures, and I'll just talk you through a little bit of what I was doing in these photos. And I would say, if you are going to do something like this, don't spend a whole lot of money. You can find so many cool things in a 100-yen shop, for example, or things that you have, like look around your classroom, look around the area that you want to set this up in, and see what you can use, and you might get inspired just by the things that you have already around you. But be prepared, because students will go through every single thing. And I have a bad habit of using receipts as bookmarks. And so some students would go through all the books and like, what does this receipt mean? Coffee in a coffee shop. But it was just a receipt, because I'm a bit lazy like that. So here are photos I was trying to show you earlier. Just a moment. Hope it works better this time. So look out for the numbers hidden in the sentences. This time you'll probably spot them. So the crystal maze, puzzles. There are over 50,000 escape rooms worldwide. Budapest, Beijing, and Moscow considered to have some of the best. Those were your hidden numbers. And that was a hint, maze puzzles are best. So the pictures, this is a group of my adult students who got really into this. They're constantly asking me to make another one. I'm afraid I haven't been able to, but they are enjoying using Escape the Classroom in their classes at the moment. And this is the state of demolition that my classroom ended up at the end, which means a lot of tidying up. And I used my message board with some weird photos that I was able to get off the internet to hide some clues to the cities. And I used pipe cleaners. If you see the shapes there, it looks like weird shapes, but you can see it's kind of a mirror image. And that would release the numbers 3, 5, and 7. That's a very easy one you could make at home. The puzzle on the right is a pyramid that I did actually buy, and they had to put that together. It's a physical puzzle. And I also had handwritten clues in a notebook, a journal. I made a game called International School of Spies, which had an espionage theme. This one was a lot more advanced. It would be difficult for children, but it was my favorite game that I've done so far. Picture on the left shows you some of the things I did in the children's room. If you see the strange letters at the top, Katradogin, the fish, how mouse, they had a clue to erase the animals. So if they found animals in these words, cat, dog, fish, mouse, horse, that would leave them with the letters rainbow book. And then they had to find a rainbow book on the bookshelf to find their next clue. And I had a lot of physical locks, some with words, some with numbers, break codes. On the right, I forced my family to do my escape room. I think they enjoyed it. On the left is a team of ALTs who were the most prepared team I've ever had do an escape room. They actually came early and scouted out the neighborhood in case there were any clues outside my building. And they brought compasses with them just in case they needed to know which direction they were leaning towards. They were one of the best teams to do my room. That's a picture from the espionage themed game. Again, some of my adult students solving puzzles. The briefcase I used to always bang my head on. And a locked chest. Don't go as far as I did. Don't cut up famous novels and hide keys in them. You never want to do that, but it's really fun. Another handmade puzzle using things from the 100 yen shop, just cutting out cards, and they could count the number of diamonds, hearts, spades, and clubs. And this led them to the number 1984, and they could find something hidden within that book. I had stickers hidden on a globe with mysterious letters. Some more props I used Monopoly money to buy hints. So there were notes of Monopoly money hidden around the classroom, and they could spend $100 of Monopoly money to buy a hint, or if they had 200, they could fast forward through a puzzle and I would give them the answer if they were struggling. This was after a game that took about an hour to tidy up, and then I just had to reset it, start again. These were some other activities, things I found in the 100 yen shop, toy spiders, pet food bowls with stickers on them, which was a code they had to solve, loom bands, alphabet stickers, Scrabble letters, just classroom items that you probably already have. And these are some of the kids I teach solving those puzzles. the one on the right, also a mesh basket and some weird like plastic ice cubes, which I wrote numbers and words on. And some of the kids trying to solve the puzzles. That's it. So there you go. That's a lot of information, but I hope I've given you some ideas, maybe inspired you to try a few things in the classroom. Feel free to contact me afterwards. You can find me on Instagram, Fiona Escapes the Classroom, or I'm on Facebook. So, or send me a message in the chat or in the social room afterwards. And I'll leave the rest of the time for any questions.
That's right. We've got 10 minutes still that we can have for discussion. So please, everybody, if you've got comments or questions, they're very welcome. I'll start off actually,
yes.
if I may. So I was curious, how large were your classes online this year? And how, like, breakout rooms, about how many students would you put together?
Okay, the largest class I had was 32 students, and I would have about six breakout rooms, so that was practical for me to jump around them all, but also gave them a chance to talk together. I also had a small class with 8, which was perfect.
Okay, and you'd switch the groups. It's not like they would stay in the same group each week.
Yeah, I randomized. So yeah, when you put students in breakout rooms, I would just assign it randomly to give them a chance to meet lots of people and make a few friends. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. Suzanne, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to ask, what were some of the main or unexpected difficulties you came across implementing it in Zoom and then also implementing it in the classroom?
So there were a couple of activities that I couldn't actually do on Zoom. For example, I have one in the detective themed mission where one student would leave the room and the rest of the students would do something to change the appearance on their desks. They put all their tables together. So for example, 2 students might switch watches with each other, or they would flip over a book or something like that, and then the student would come back like a detective, be observing what has changed while I've been gone. Couldn't really do that on Zoom, so I did have to there were a few things I had to either adapt or pass on, but for the most part, things like quizzes and word activities I was able to do pretty much as I would do in the classroom, just a few physical things. And I couldn't have physical locks that I was really wanting to be able to have them actually put the digits into a lock. But maybe in the next academic year I'll be able to do a little bit more techie stuff, although that's not my thing, and actually do some screen sharing where it would look like there's a lock that they have to open and put in the number. Yes.
I just had an idea. Did you see what I just did?
What did you just do? You've escaped to a desert island?
What was my previous background?
Oh yeah.
Fuji.
It was, yeah. Just when you were saying that to Susanna, I thought, hang on, you could get one person to change their background and not and tell them to go out the room and come back.
I love that. I'm writing it down right now.
Just change it. Well, I think maybe Christy noticed.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, okay.
Really cool.
And I guess they could change something about their appearance, maybe.
Yeah. Throw on a scarf.
Yeah. I mean, I did this activity with a class a couple of years ago, and I had boys like ripping off their t-shirts and changing clothes with each other, and it got a bit wild. So like, yeah, we can't do that. It's a pandemic. Pre-pandemic, anything goes.
You can maybe use those filters too. Some of them are very subtle, like the lipstick filter.
Yeah.
Or have a boy put on eyelashes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is brilliant. I'm getting all kinds of ideas. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Thank you.
And I guess I would just ask the book that we're not really talking about, but it is set up for a semester-long course? It
is, yes. Yeah, it's 15 missions.
15 missions.
One mission a week. Yeah, so instead of units or chapters, they're missions. And just the word in itself, I think, gives the students like, oh, a mission. Totally. Yeah, we're not just doing boring reading comprehensions here, it's a mission. So, yeah, but I do use it with adult classes and space it a little bit more gently. So we'll spend maybe 2 60-minute classes
Okay,
one mission.
cool.
I wonder, have you considered turning this into a book? Obviously, you have interest here. You know.
Yeah, it already.
It might already exist.
Oh, does it? Okay, I wasn't here. I was in the kitchen. I was in the kitchen making my moussaka. Sorry.
Yeah,
just-
the clue is in the name of the presentation.
There you go. All right. I'm clueless, so sorry about that.
Have you ever had any trouble with students just being grumpy or unwilling to participate?
You know what? I haven't.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I haven't had a single student sleep in class this semester. I mean,
Great.
usually I don't anyway, because I always enforcing that, you know, you're
Yeah.
in a team, you're in a group, you're going to let the people around you down if you're tuning out. But yeah, I think I was really helped by the fact that they have very, very passive lives at the moment, where they don't get to interact with people. And my class was kind of like their socializing
Definitely.
process. And I did get a lot of comments that this was the time that they actually felt like a student.
Yeah. Oh,
Which was heartwarming. Yeah. Just playing a game, right? Like, who doesn't love games? And I know for me, like, I love games and quizzes, and so yeah, I don't think I had any students that tuned out, and I didn't have any that were really cross about like not winning.
Yeah, good.
It was lighthearted, and I'm not very good at keeping score. Like, I would often have mistakes. Are like, no, we got 8 points for that, not 6. You wrote our score for the wrong team. So yeah, it was lighthearted. It wasn't too competitive, but they definitely wanted to have the points, even if there wasn't a prize.
Sounds fun.
Definitely fun. I think when you've been teaching for 20 odd years, you have to make your own lessons fun, or else you do bored yourself, right? So I enjoy teaching with this class. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, if you were to rewrite your book specifically for online, online classes, what would you change?
Oh wow. Gosh, I'm not planning to rewrite any kind of book. I'm so burnt out by the whole experience. But if I was going to change anything, I guess I would want even more communication activities. I would say that there's a lot of like vocabulary, because students need that structure of learning vocabulary, and I would also want to put in some more review work. So for example, like even now at the end of a class, I would maybe take 5 or 10 minutes that they would write down the vocabulary they've learned, or take some notes of what was useful, or they want to go back and look into further. So maybe some more review activities, follow-up activities, so that they can do something more after the class, maybe as homework or just for their own self-study purposes. Okay, we only have a couple of minutes left. Any final comments or questions? All right, well, thank you so much for bearing with me. I know I talk far too quickly when I'm nervous, so I really rattled through at the beginning.
Thank you so much for a really interesting. I'm sure everybody has lots of ideas on how they're going to try this out in
I hope so.
in the future. So
definitely feel free to contact me anytime. I'm happy to share some ideas. I couldn't get a whole lot into 45 minutes, but yeah. And if you do stuff, yeah, send me photos of the puzzles and activities you've tried as well, and we can share some ideas.
Cool idea. All right, everybody, let's give a round of applause. Thanks to Fiona.
Thanks.
Really great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm off to eat some chocolate now.
Remember, you should write a book. Yeah,
I might just try that one day. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.